Behold, I have returned from the wild lands of the second-hand bookstore realm, where dragons guard the discounts, and the chosen one is me. You call it a book haul, I call it a book-buying addiction. I regret nothing. These books needed me. It was basically a rescue mission. They're just gonna go on your TBR pile and never be read. Alright, let's go. First up, I got some Janny Wurts. This is Sorcerers Legacy. This is the first ever book that Janny Wurts published. I have, of course, read the Empire trilogy, but if I'm going to read Janny Wurts, I kind of want to start at the start. I also got The Master of Whittorm. This is another standalone that Janny Wurts published in 1992. I also got Warden. This is the first book in the Cycle of Fire trilogy. This was actually the second book that Janny Wurts published. And lastly, I got Warhost of Vastmark. This is the third book in her Wars of Light and Shadow series. I'm slowly building this up. I think I've got 4 of them at this stage. I also picked up Honored Enemy. This is book 1 of the Legends of Rift War. This is a series that Feist wrote with a bunch of different people. As far as I understand it, these are set during the original Rift War cycle. Now, I'm currently reading the Serpent War saga, so I'll be finishing that up. Then there is the Rift War Legacy series, and then the Legends of the Rift War series. I also picked up a couple of Stephen Lawhead books. He currently has his Pendragon cycle, which is basically about Merlin being adapted for TV. So I picked up The Sword and the Flame. This is book 3 in his first trilogy, the Dragon King trilogy. I also picked up The Mystic Rose. This is book 3 in the Celtic Crusades, and this is actually replacing... I have a trade paperback. I'm trying to get rid of my trade paperbacks. It's basically about... they take up so much room on the bookshelf, so I do prefer mass market paperbacks. Something a bit more old school, I picked up the Rune Staff by Michael Moorcock. This is the 4th book in the history of the Rune Staff series, which is all tied in with the Eternal Champion, all that sort of stuff. Ed over at Dutch Greybeard will approve of this one, Duncan Rising by William Horwood. This is part of the Book of Silence. There are the Duncan Chronicles, which is a series of 3 books, and then there's the Book of Silence, which is another 3 books. And really all I know about these books is that it's about a bunch of bowls. And apparently this is more readable and rewarding than The Lord of the Rings. Okay, that's the fantasy. Now onto the sci-fi. I managed to pick up some Asimov. This is The Gods Themselves. I can't believe I didn't have this. This is the Hugo and Nebula award-winning book by Asimov, and I haven't read it. In fact, it's been quite a while since I read an Asimov. Also from Asimov, The Stars in Their Courses. This is actually not a bunch of short stories. This is a bunch of essays written about science and that kind of stuff. And another one I can't believe I didn't have, this is Gold. This is the final volume of his science fiction short stories. I also picked up City of Illusions by Ursula K LeGuin. This is in the Hainish cycle. This is actually the book that comes before The Left Hand of Darkness, which I had some contrary opinions about Left Hand of Darkness. I thought it was okay, but it wasn't fantastic to me. Anyway, I would like to read her other books. Web by John Wyndham. This was actually published posthumously about 10 years after he died, and I'd really like to go and read through all of his works. So I guess that one will be the last one. This is a slightly odd one. This is Cobweb by Neal Stephenson, or rather it's Stephen Bury, which is actually just a pseudonym for Neal Stephenson and J. Frederick George. They collaborated on an earlier book called Interface. I'm not sure how much sci-fi there is in this. I know it's kind of a political thriller. This was written after he'd written Snow Crash and The Diamond Age. I think at this point in time I've read about half of Neal Stephenson's works. Alright, I've got a few books that will make Sam over at Sam Not So Wise very happy. They are all Iain M Banks. This is Accession, which is part of the Culture series. And again, I'm picking this up because this is the mass market paperback version versus the kind of larger format. Having said that, I also picked up The State of the Art, which is in this kind of larger format. Currently, I have quite a few in this format, which kind of all go together on the shelves. So I'm going to have to decide whether to keep this size or I may actually get rid of that mass market. The trials of not having enough shelf space. And one more, Iain M Banks, Against a Dark Background. This is not part of the Culture series, it's just a standalone sci-fi novel. Seems a bit bigger than the other ones. And then finally something totally random, not fantasy, not sci-fi, it is Three Men in a Boat by Jerome K Jerome. This was published in 1889 and apparently it's quite funny. And even more randomly, I picked up some jigsaw puzzles because I'm going in a competition with my daughter, so this is good for practicing. Are we done now? Yeah, everyone loves a book haul. Yeah, you get to talk about books with zero commitment. Exactly, it's all about the potential. Yeah, like some fantasy authors I could mention. What's it been? 15 years, Martin? And I'll keep buying them. All right, see you in the next one.